right, we're here at part of my VermiHut and my 12 sheet cross-cut shredder. It's a micro shredder. And today we are going to put on a bottom inoculating tray onto the VermiHut. So let's go ahead and get our cardboard shreds out. And you can see these are just cardboard boxes that I put into this awesome shredder right here. So let's go ahead and fill this, and I'm going to put it in straight dry, not even putting any kind of water or anything in it. And that's because this is going on the very bottom of the VermiHut. And the VermiHut is an awesome worm tower that drains any kind of liquid all the way down, and it will eventually get this wet and inoculate it with all kinds of microbes and juices from the food scrap feedings that we feed this bin. So let me go ahead and fill this up almost all the way to the top, and then we'll get started putting it back onto the VermiHut. All right, now that we have this full, we're gonna go ahead and get into the worm bin. But what we need to do is we need to take the 3 layers that are on here off so that we can put that bin on the very bottom. And as you can see, some of the worms get down here, and this was actually cleaned just a little while ago. So you can expect to have a little bit of castings and maybe some worms. Worm farming is not a completely clean sport. And in the bin, you'll also have a few castings, that kind of thing. But with having inoculating trays on the bottom that start very dry, this is way, way less moist and way fewer castings than when I ran it the other way. Lots of ways to run a worm bin or a worm tower. This is just how I do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and dump these worms into here while we're there, and then we'll put our new inoculating tray on the bottom. All right, so now we're ready to put our new inoculating tray right on the bottom there. A nice dry, fluffy tray. And then we'll put these 3 right there, right on top. And now we have a 4-tier tray. So let me get reset and we'll dive into this VermiHut. So now that we put that inoculating tray on the very bottom, let's go ahead and get in here. And the last time we were in here, we put worm chow ingredients and then we checked on them. And over here we had a crazy Yeti with the pine nuts, and even over here in the almond flour, there was some stuff, but these 2, the lentils and the coconut flour, went pretty quick. But we mixed it all in, and there was some pine nut paste, and we'll have to see if we see any of that in here. Now we have a mango seed over here, I believe, or over here, and then a piece of pineapple that is probably about the only thing besides the mango seed and maybe a banana peel that is still in here, because I think the worms have gotten to everything. And here we go. Here is the mango seed, and they've gotten almost all the flesh off of it. And let's see if we can open it up. I think we can. And if we can open it up, then there certainly are worms inside here. This is delicate. Let's give it a try. Lots of pounds of pressure working here to try and open it up. And I see one. Nope, that's not a worm. That's a mango part. This right here is the seed leaf, the cotyledon. And I don't think that they've gotten into it. So, that's a first. I got into it before the worms. So let's put that back in there and let them have a go. So that means the pineapple chunk is right under here. Now I've found that pineapples take a really long time to get eaten by the worms, but oh my gosh, check that out. They totally love it. They are all inside here trying to get at the flesh, and you can see the stringiness of the flesh as they're kind of eaten all around the fibers. That is so cool. Right here is where it was attached to the plant itself, and I grew this pineapple myself. And here we go. Here's the bottom of it. Very cool. It's going to take a while for them to get to these fibrous kind of leaf things here. So we'll keep revisiting this. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and dig in. Now we put a lot of bedding in here, and we're going to continue to put a lot of bedding because we're trying to get the volume up in this. One thing I love about these worm bins, or I'm sorry, these worm towers, is that they supply a steady round of castings to you about every 45 to 60 days. And that's because right now this has 4 trays on it. It came with 5 trays, and I don't know that I'd ever be able to put 5 on, because if you multiply 5 by 60 or 5 by 45, that's a lot of days. And the worms just seem to get to full castings before that. So I end up only having about 3 or 4 trays on at a time. And you can see lots of worms all in here. So let's dig around. This is the feeding zone, and I don't see anything except for that pineapple and mango. Oh, here we go. Here is the banana peel, and they are digging through it. This right here, well, I thought this was the banana peel. I think maybe this part is, but this right here is some other kind of fruit that I put in here. I'm not sure what it is, but very interesting. All right, more banana peel right there. But after 10 days, here we go. I think I'm gonna be able to put a bigger feeding in here this time. So let me go ahead and go around the bin and kind of mix everything up, and then we'll go ahead and lay down a bunch of bedding and get our feeding going. Wow, look at this. Every time I dig in, just hundreds of worms throughout this whole bin. And this is so fluffy. I mean, castings just constantly being made by these worms. Now, you can start a worm bin with 500 worms. Shoot, you can start with 100 worms. I started this with 2,000 worms, and if you can do that, I highly suggest it, because you will just be working casting city, you know, right from the get-go. All right, so I think I've created one of the biggest feeding zones that I've ever done in this VermiHut. So let's go ahead and get some bedding and get some food in here. So first things first, we'll put in some bedding, and this is just dried bedding. I'm gonna go ahead and put some food scraps on it that are previously frozen and have a lot of liquid in them. But with these worm towers, you have a lid on them, and they've got multiple layers. So whatever total moisture is in all these layers is going to permeate into this dry bedding. In fact, with a worm tower with a lid, you really don't ever have to worry about moisture control, because any extra moisture will just drain all the way to the bottom. So that's another reason I just absolutely love worm towers. In goes a little bit more, and we're gonna put some worm chow directly on top of this. So before I forget, and because the executive producer reminded me, I'm gonna put the mango and the pineapple down first. And then in goes our worm chow, and you can see I'm just putting it on lightly, because if I clump it up, I don't want to make like a little loaf of bread inside here as the moisture comes and adds into this worm chow. So here we go. I'm gonna put as much of this as I can fit in here, kind of like I do with my outdoor worm bin, because I've been taking about 9 or so days to get into this worm bin, and they're just eating everything up. So one of the ways that I regulate how much I feed is by going in and each feeding and seeing how they do. If they have a lot of food left, then I don't give them as much. If they don't have any food left, then I know I can slowly increase. And right now we have kind of a lot of slow foods. I put a couple pieces of pineapple in here and an apple, but then we have some faster foods. I've got some broccoli and some, looks like carrots, that kind of thing. So I think I just happen to have a lot of slow foods in here. Hopefully that won't be a problem. We may come in here in 9 days and see a bunch of food left, but I want to give it a try. So there we go. Here we go. Here's some more of the fast food, like a carrot stalk or even these pepper tops. So I think we'll be in good shape. Now, even though we're indoors with this VermiHut, I may get some heat from this. This is a lot of food, and then I put a lot of cardboard down, and those two combined, carbon with nitrogen, and the right ratio will produce heat. So I'll have to come in here at least 24 hours later, kind of feel the temperature. If it feels warm, then I'll put a couple of ice cubes on it. And if it doesn't feel warm, then I'll check it again in 48 hours and make sure that the thing is not heating up. After about 2 or 3 days, if it hasn't heated up, then you're not gonna have any problems with heat from the food scraps and cardboard that you put in. So let's go in again with some more worm chow. And I just gotta stop real quick. I just watched a video from Clive's Conundrum, and they had 2 kids helping them with their worm bin. And I gotta tell you, it is one of the funniest, just uplifting worm bin videos you've ever seen. Jason and Colleen over there are fantastic. So please go ahead and check that out. I'll put a link in the description. Absolutely hilarious to watch kids get in a worm bin. And if you have a worm bin, or you have some kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews or even friends, have the kids check out the worm bin. There's nothing like the joy that a kid gets from putting his hands in or her hands in and pulling out a mess of worms. And to tell you the truth, they ask some of the funniest questions, but also really in-depth questions that even adults don't think to ask. This is just some coffee grounds from our coffee that we have in the morning. Just put the spent coffee grounds in here. Again, just lightly. It's another food source for them. And then finally, my choice of grit for their gizzards is some pulverized eggshells. Mostly because it also does good for me in my garden. I don't use sand or anything else that I would have to buy, because I have a lot of sand in my yard to begin with, because I'm from Florida, and I really try not to buy anything extra for the worm bin. But there are a lot of choices of grit for you and food, and everybody's worm bin is different, and everybody's worm bin reacts differently, even based on just where you are, if it's an indoor worm bin, if it's an outdoor worm bin. For me, I tend to find that my worm bins get a little bit drier in the summer because my air conditioning is going full blast, but I think some folks in the winter have their worm bins go a little bit drier in the winter because their furnaces are working. So let me go ahead and put a top feeding of worm chow on. So here we go. My last bit of worm chow going on this bin. I think this is the third time I've brought this out. Obviously, I'm pretty excited about my worm chow. But my worm chow ultimately is a way for me to get rid of expired goods that were in my pantry. So just another way to keep things out of the landfill and at the same time help my garden and help my worms. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope your worm bins are doing well. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.